We are back on the Real News Radio with Farron and Brian. It is a very special day here. We have been promoting. We are joined with Pastor Gary Frey. He did the series, The Watchman on the Wall, the New World Order Luciferian Connection, and Mr. Rodney Miller, researcher and lecturer. So we're going to turn it back to them today.
All right. Thank you very much, Farron. I was reading from this report from the Committee for Monetary Review and Education. It's dated, let's see, what was that date on that? October the 19th, 2006. And I'm going to start at the first of it again because I think it's important that people listen to this and hear this statement. Before I even begin this, I do want to say how much we appreciate you allowing us on here and having the courage to disclose this type of information. Okay, to start back again with a statement that says, the zeal for the New Deal included Union leader Sidney Hillman, who praised Lenin as one of the greatest statesmen of our age and perhaps of all ages. Now this is the zeal of the New Deal. This is a person who was a part of the New Deal. General Hugh Johnson, a big business partisan, wanted the nation to imitate the dynamic pragmatism of Mussolini. Using the writings of Mussolini, Hillman and Johnson developed the National Labor Relations Board, I'm sure you've heard of that, to bind capital and labor into collaborative corporations under state control, a political theory called fascism in Europe, but corporatism where it was practiced elsewhere without the military component. On Google, you can see the FDR and Mussolini, A Tale of Two Fascists, by Srijka Trifkovic, or Trifkovic. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but the NRA was declared unconstitutional and the concepts remained.
And that was the National Recovery Act that they were talking about that Roosevelt started. Now, one thing I want to bring out, isn't it amazing, folks, when you stop and think what Lenin was involved with in the statement that he made back when he was in office. He said the following: Russia would rule itself to death, America would spend itself to death, but Russia would take us over without firing a shot. Hey, did he have inside information or what? You know, we look at what's gone on through this country for many, many years, but we really need to look back because, you know, if we don't know where we've been, how do we know where we're going? One of the major things that I found that I really find it very intriguing was in the writings of George Washington. In volume 36 in the archives in Washington, these are the historical documents that were put together by the Constitutional Committee. August the 4th of 1797 to October 28, 1798. A letter to Reverend Snyder, Mount Vernon, New York, October 24th, 1798. Reverend Sir, George Washington writes, I have a favor of the 17th instant before me. My only motive to trouble you with the receipt of this letter is to explain and correct the mistake I perceived, the hurry in which I obliged to often write letters have led you into. It is not my intentions to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati, folks, the Illuminati is still out there and still here today, and the principles of Jacobism, the Black Hand in Europe, that killed the King of France and the tyranny thereafter, had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of that fact than I am. The idea I meant to convey was that I do not believe that the lodges of the Freemasons in this country had as societies endeavored to propagate the diabolical tenets of the first and the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible of separation, that individuals of them may have done it, or that the founder of the instrument employed to fund the Democrat societies in the United States may have these objectives of actually had a separation of the people from their government in view is too evident to be questioned. My occupation is such that little leisure to allow me to read papers or books of any kind, and reading and writing letters and preparing answers absorb much of my time. With respect, George Washington. That you can find very readily. It's right, Carolina. Carolina. If you go to George Washington's writings in the Library of Congress, you find a number of things that was written. And there's one gentleman that I would ask you to sit down and get a pencil and paper and let me give you an address and a phone number. And you can write to him and get this book. Dr. John Grady, M.D., 300 Lock Lane, Benton, Tennessee, 37307. His phone number is 423-338-2328. He's put together a booklet on a vision that George Washington had, and I bet most of y'all don't know about this vision. The vision occurred when George Washington was getting ready to go across to Delaware. And when he went across, before he went across, he went to his tent to pray and to really think about what he could do to prepare his men for battle. At no time in history did anybody fight without going out and aiming the guns at one another and just firing dead on. Well, George Washington went to his tent and he had told his men, don't let anybody bother me. He got into his tent, and a few minutes later, according to the article, and this is also documented throughout the Library of Congress, an angel appeared. And the angel said, Son of the Republic, listen and learn. She spread her wings, and he saw the vision that he went across the Delaware in the middle of the night and surprised the enemy the next morning. Then she said, Son of the Republic, listen and learn. He saw the Civil War and what had happened. Then there was a third time that she showed him a vision. And that vision is, I'm getting ready to tell you when you come back. Well, I've got time. Son of the Republic, listen and learn. And he saw the United States being invaded by Russia and Northern Africa. You know, folks, I'm really concerned for this country right now. Programs. And I am standing up for our country. If you really and truly love your country, you'll start talking about these things. You'll start learning on your own. You know, the Battle Hymn of the Republic said the following: As Christ died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. And that's why Gary and I are on the air today, and this is the reason Farron has his radio program. You know, we are Americans. It is time that we started acting like Americans. It's time that we enjoy the liberties that we have right now. And freedom of speech is one of the last things that we're going to have. And we don't stand up and talk about and learn what history is, we're lost.
We're coming up on a break. You're listening to The Real News with Farron and Brian, and we'll be back in moments on The Real News Radio with Farron and Brian. And we're joined today with Pastor Gary Frey and Rodney Miller, and we're going to go ahead and continue on our topics today.
Okay, thank you, Farron. We've been talking about some pretty heavy information, but a lot of people have the idea, the attitude that they can correct this thing through just the regular political process. And I'm here to tell you by the authority of God's Word that will not happen. America is based on godly precepts upon God's Word. Whether people want to believe it or not, you hear people saying this is not true, our founding fathers were atheists or agnostics, and things like this, and I'm going to give some of their quotes in just a little bit. But first I want to read from God's Word, because that's where I base all of my philosophy of life on.